Let's get more now from NBC News Chief International Correspondent Keir Simmons, MSNBC military analysts, Medal of Honor recipient retired Colonel Jack Jacobs, and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Joel Rubin. Keir, these attacks appear to be ongoing. Bring us up to speed on the very latest from the region and Israel's calculation here. Why now?
Yeah, and all the reports are that they are ongoing. And frankly, we know that they are likely ongoing because all of the analysis was that if Israel wanted to take out, if you like, Iran's nuclear capability, it wouldn't be able to do it in just one wave of strikes. And I think that's what we're seeing. The IDF saying it carried out these strikes on those nuclear sites, but also targeting Iran's military leadership. The Revolutionary Guard chief Hossein Salami, for example, and other commanders have been killed. Iran saying this morning that 6 scientists have been killed. And state TV reporting that civilians, including children, are among the dead, though that cannot be independently verified, of course. You mentioned President Trump. He urging Iran to make a deal on its nuclear program with that post on Truth Social's warning that even more brutal Israeli attacks would follow if Iran didn't negotiate. Now, previously, President Trump had indicated that he didn't think that attacks like this would help the negotiations. That seems to have changed with these new posts by him, and saying on social media, President Trump, that the next attacks are already planned and will be more brutal. There's also a fascinating piece of reporting, according to anonymous sources in local media, saying that the Mossad spy agency began smuggling missiles into Iran several months ago and also secretly installed explosive drones deep inside the country to lay the groundwork for this overnight attack. And NBC News has not confirmed those reports. But when we heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel overnight, he spoke in English and he was uncompromising.
And so, Colonel Jacobs, at least 3 senior...
Enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before. Steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. That is why we have no choice but to act, and act now.
Meanwhile, Iran's president, with a message to his nation this morning, saying Iran's legitimate and powerful response will make Israel regret its foolish act. Anna?
Keir, thank you. Please stay with us. You just ticked through a lot there, so let's break it down further. Colonel Jacobs, at least 3 senior military officials were killed, as well as a couple of nuclear scientists. You have the missile sites, the nuclear facilities damaged, destroyed. What's your reaction to the scope of this attack?
Well, with respect to the people involved, Israel has eliminated people in leadership positions and scientists before and has replaced them all. As a matter of fact, Iran has already named replacements for those who were killed in the attacks last night, so people can be replaced. The attack on the facilities is something else again. They went after the most vulnerable facility at Natanz, which has been attacked before, but the facility near Qom, which is deep inside a mountain, is extremely difficult to get to. And while not impervious to attack, requires different kinds of weapons and different kinds of tactics than Israel has used to date. So if it wants to eliminate, greatly reduce Iran's capability to enrich uranium to weapons grade, it will have to go after that site. And it hasn't done that yet. It's interesting to note, however, that the initial attacks had to take out Iran's anti-aircraft capability. Otherwise, the Israeli aircraft wouldn't be able to get to their targets. So that's why there are still attacks on facilities yet to come. But getting the facility at Qom is going to be extremely difficult, Anna.
Joel, President Trump had said he didn't want Israel to attack, that it could scuttle those U.S.-Iran nuclear attacks that have gone through at least 5 rounds at this point. Are you surprised Netanyahu went ahead anyway?
Well, Anna, this truly was the most daring Israeli military strike since the Six-Day War, a major gamble by Prime Minister Netanyahu. And to your question about President Trump, I think that he probably greenlit this strike. Now, he didn't publicly call for it. He didn't directly have American military support for it. But, there wasn't a major commitment to this diplomacy by the United States. It was more of a feeling out of the diplomacy. Steve Witkoff talked about term sheets, threw out the idea of no enrichment, then pulled it back, was confused on his messaging. And I think this was a test. And clearly Iran didn't pass the test. And President Trump, he didn't seem to have any qualms with Israel's strike last night.
No, it does seem like he's jumped on Israel's side early this morning and continuing to offer some tough talk toward Iran. The U.S., though, officially, Colonel, has said Israel acted unilaterally. Iran's foreign minister is arguing this attack couldn't have happened without the coordination and approval of the United States. What do you think? Could this have gone down without the U.S. getting some kind of approval?
I think
yes.
Yeah,
go ahead, Colonel.
Sorry. No, it could have occurred without American assistance or approval. In the past, we've given intelligence assistance, passing on information gleaned from satellites and so on. But Israel has a capability and has demonstrated the capability of launching attacks like this on its own. To the extent that they need other weapons, Israel has demonstrated that it can manufacture its own. So, easily done by Israel, by itself, requiring absolutely no approval or assistance from the United States.
But what do we know about U.S. assets in the region and the potential risk to them and the risk that the U.S. gets drawn into this?
Yeah, we do have assets in the region. We've withdrawn some of them. Of course, we have strategic interests in the region, and any conflict there makes it extremely difficult for us to maintain the surveillance that we need to maintain, particularly over Houthis and others. And so withdrawing forces from the region makes it hard for us to achieve our strategic objectives there. So any volatility in the region makes it hard for us to project our power. It's unclear so far how long it's going to take for Israel to achieve what it wants to achieve. It may take a matter of days or even weeks, but during that time, it's going to be hard for the United States to project its power in the region, Anna.
Keir, can you give us a sense of what Iran might have planned in terms of retaliation? What have we seen so far? How does it compare to what we've seen in the past? And what kind of warnings are they giving this morning?
This doesn't look like the kind of retaliation that we saw previously with Iran, just in response to previous Israeli attacks. The question is going to be whether Iran simply isn't capable of a response like that yet now. As you know, just some of its proxies like Hezbollah are completely crushed, frankly. So that is going to be a question, and I guess we'll get the answer in the coming days. We are hearing that Iran has cancelled the talks that were planned for Sunday with President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff. So clearly it is moving to a defensive, if not offensive position, rather than moving towards the kinds of negotiations that President Trump has called for. Another point I think just worth making too, though, is that the UN's nuclear observer has said just in the past 24 hours, interestingly, just before these strikes, that Iran was not complying with its obligations around its nuclear program. And so another question is going to be, was Iran reaching for nuclear capability anyway? Or if Israel isn't able to fully kind of demolish, if you like, Iran's nuclear program, will this push Tehran towards getting a nuclear bomb?
Yeah, the International Atomic Energy Agency is saying just this week that Iran had not complied with the nuclear obligations for the first time in about 20 years. We've seen so much video here from inside Iran and all of the damage that has occurred because of these Israeli strikes overnight. And we do know that those 100 drones were launched toward Israel almost immediately in response. Do we know if there was any damage inside Israel?
It doesn't look like it. We do hear that over Jordan, Iranian drones were shot down. And if that is the case, then that will increase the nervousness in Arab nations in the Gulf, where I am, for example, over whether Iran will turn and respond towards those nations that are partners with the United States. The Arab world has shifted quite considerably in recent years towards a more diplomatic approach to Iran. It's changed just as the White House has shifted away from a more diplomatic approach, if you like. So that will be another one of the concerns. But we really have no clear idea at this stage about how long this, as you've been saying, how long these strikes by Israel will continue. And Israel showing video of them taking out some of Iran's defenses. So it may be that Iran is, frankly, simply trying to in a position of defense right now, rather than being able to take any real offensive action.